Welcome to the Iridium Conversations, a podcast where we explore how using NLP can help coaches access excellence in every conversation that they have. My name is Misha Bajaj, and I'm a partner at Iridium. I am also an ICF BCC coach and a Marshall Goldsmith stakeholder centered coach. I'm also an NLP trainer, and I do hope that we are able to help you as a coach. I'm going to bring in the perspective from the coach's world into this conversation.
Hi, my name is Nikhil Damle, and I'm not yet a credentialed coach from an ICF perspective, but I'm an NLP trainer, and I'm also on the track to be an NLP master trainer. So I'm really hoping that through this podcast, we can clarify how to our listeners, how NLP can be an enabler in your coaching practice, and that's really what we're hoping to do.
So let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to yet another episode of the Iridium Conversations. I am your hostess, Misha Bajaj, and I'm wearing my coach hat to discuss a very useful topic today for the coaches listening to us. And the topic is staying with the client's experience. It sounds simple, but in practice, we often get tripped up by our own knowledge or our own biases. So let me introduce or welcome Nikhil back to this show. Nikhil, you're wearing your NLP trainer hat.
Yep.
And you are going to help us identify or give us that structure of how we can stay with the client's experience.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to this topic.
Cool. So let's begin. And my first question is, let's start with language. Okay. In the last episode, we talked about how, every conversation is really about the words, the intent, as well as, the client's experience. And this is what we are focusing on in this particular episode, the client's experience. So if we go back to the words or the content of the experience, a lot of times we find ourselves in a conversation with a client who uses a lot of jargon or maybe technical words, which as a coach I might not be aware of. And at that time, I might just start doubting, if I am the right fit for this particular client, or, what if the client thinks that I am not the right coach for them. So,
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I think this question also gets asked from a perspective of, do you have experience of pharmaceutical industry, or do you have experience of sales, do you have understanding of that domain, right? I mean, that's what is asked.
Yeah.
I think the first thing, which when I work with individual clients and especially corporate leaders, one of the things I do, when a chemistry call happens or a discovery call happens, is to clarify that you are an expert in your own right. So you may be in sales, you may be in technology, you may be in whatever domain you are in. You are an expert in that. I am an expert in working with you. And so keeping that distinction apart is important, because it means a coaching relationship is about how can a coach assist the client in performing well where they want to perform well. So there is a field of play where the client wants to perform well. We are right now not on that field of play, but having a side conversation trying to discover things that can assist with that. I can't bring something into the conversation as a coach which has no relevance in the field of play. So the client is only going to be effective where they want to be effective. If we think about, let's say if we think about football, so they have to be effective in the rules of football and on the ground that football is. I can't bring badminton thinking into football. So the client is an expert in their life. The client is an expert in their domain. I am an expert in coaching the person. So when words or jargon or terminology is being brought in, it's valid in their world. For them, it lives like when I say those things, it means I'm sharing a certain reconstruction of what happens in my life there. In NLP, we call this representation, right? It's their constructed map of how that scenario is at work or in my life, and I'm replaying that scenario to you. So it's important for me as a coach to remember that they're using the vocabulary that is available to them.
Right.
And it's not necessary for me to recognize that vocabulary. In fact, if I don't know it, that's fine, because I can say, okay, you said GTM. What does GTM mean? They'll just clarify. It means go to market.
Yeah.
Okay. And if I still feel I'm not clear about what go to market means, I might say, what does that mean? And they might say, it means this, this, and this. The question is, do I look into it from a perspective of, is it useful to achieve the client's objectives in this conversation? If it's useful, I might clarify and ask that. If it's not useful, I might say that fair enough, that's what you mean. And now what is it that we are going to look at? Because in a way, we are looking at working with the client's experience. They're coming to you and saying, I'm overwhelmed when I have to do this. I'm worried when I have to do this. I'm scared about this. I'm under pressure. I'd like to feel lighter. I want to be happier. I want to be more productive. So client is actually, by giving us the details and jargon and words, giving us an indicative representation of, this is my experience, but I'd like it to be this way. So in a way, if we start listening to it as the client is providing us a contrast of where they are versus where they'd like to be, or maybe sometimes the client is just telling us where they are, then it's up to us to recognize they've not given us a representation of where they'd like to be. And therefore then looking at the words and trying to delve into the meaning and studying before, this is an IT sector client, so I better know everything about software development, is not essential, because we are not coaching them on software development. We are not coaching them in sales. We are not coaching them in manufacturing a car. We are coaching them that in their environment, they deal with people, they deal with situations. That's what we are coaching them on. And therefore, trying to sort of, think that we must know everything from their world is putting too much of a burden on ourselves as a coach.
And I think that's a nice frame that you've put around this, that, they are talking to you in a language that they know.
Yes.
Right? And so that it's really them sharing their experience of what is happening to them, which is also a recreation that they're doing using the vocabulary or the language that they know.
Correct.
Right. So which means that essentially when I am clarifying, in the conversation, then I am not taking it as, okay, GTM, this is what it must be meaning. I'm not assuming a meaning. However, I am really looking to find out what is the meaning in their experience. Is that right?
Yes. One, I'm trying to figure out what does it mean or represent for them.
Yeah.
Because let's say this is an interesting phrase, right? GTM. Okay, I can go and look up the meaning and say, okay, GTM means this. It means a strategy of how to go from idea to implementation and releasing that product in the market. But that's not the only way that it lives for them in their world. It could live for them as something that makes them anxious also. And therefore, to look at it in the isolated manner that GTM means this, and this person is in a startup, so therefore I know what it means, is missing out on what else it means. So word might just convey a very literal meaning, or that technical jargon might just convey a very different meaning. If someone says, I'm struggling with quality right now at my manufacturing plant, we are not about to coach them on quality methods. We are coaching them on what about quality concerns them, what about quality would they like to aspire and achieve. So there is an additional element of their own experience, their own sensibility and subjectivity that they're bringing into the mix, which is for us to pick up. And therefore, if we're hung up on this technical jargon and words, we will miss the rest of the picture that they're projecting and conveying to us.
I like that word subjectivity. Like we say, NLP is the study of people's subjective experience, right? And everybody can have a different experience.
Correct.
And yet, a lot of times I've noticed that as coaches, we use the word reading between the lines, the phrase reading between the lines so much. Now, how does NLP help us interpret or read between the lines of what the client is not really saying?
Right. So let's clarify that. There is no. So reading between the lines, you could say that noticing the subtext. And again, it's the subtle difference between calibrating and judging. If I'm reading a novel, then the novel is now not shifting, right? As I read the novel doesn't change the way I read it. It's a fixed thing in the book. When I'm reading this, there's something that is being said in the sentences, but I'm also getting a subtext. This is this region. This is this time in our history. These are the other characters. So I'm getting a sense of the world is the way I can look at it, right? If I'm getting a sense of the world, that means I'm paying sharp attention to what is being used to convey that sense of the world to me, which is what I mentioned earlier, that if I just get very hung up on technical jargon, I'll not get a sense of that person's world.
Right.
So in a dynamic conversation, in a live conversation, to read between the lines means trying to second guess, which is not what we want to do as a coach, right? But we can pay attention to the manner in which it is being said. There's some tension, so maybe they're worried about it, right? But I can't say, oh, look, you look very worried about it. But I can always say the manner in which you are saying makes it seem that there's something more. And now they can elaborate, or they can expand in whichever way they want. So leaving the agency with the client, leaving that choice with the client, that which is the way this conversation is going to go. And that's totally the opposite of reading between the lines or interpreting, because we don't want to go ahead of the client. We want to stay with the client. And that's also what staying focused means, that in a way, like if you were playing a song to me and let's say we were listening to it on Spotify, then it would go 1 minute to 2 minutes, 3 minutes, song would be over. And then if you asked me how did you like the song, and if I put the slider back and I said, when this happened I felt this, and this happened and I felt this, you'll say, of course I know how the song was played, right? So there is no probative value in going back to it like that, right? And therefore we've got to look at, there is a outcome that the client is looking to achieve out of this. So what is that session outcome? And in what they are saying right now, this reading between the lines, I would rather say it is discerning. Right now, whatever is being said, does it help and serve the purpose of what the client wants to achieve, right? It's also, discerning is also like saying, in NLP we say staying in a not knowing state. And I often say that the expanded form of not knowing state is not knowing anything else other than that what is relevant as the outcome for this conversation. And when that happens, then I'm discerning that could this be useful, could that be useful? Again, not judging, but keeping all options open for me on how I might ask a question, and thereby keeping all the options open for the client as to where they might want to take this exploration and what they might end up discovering, right? So being a good observer, being like a witness, again, like I think we used that word some time ago in the first episode, right? So those are useful ways to sort of look at it. And then that's why if you see those shows where the lawyer is cross-questioning the witness, sometimes the witness has not been the witness because they're just adding their stuff in. But when the questions are asked by the lawyer, then it becomes very clear that some elements have to be kept out and only these precise elements of observation have to be kept in. So it's a little bit like that, right? That if we remain a true observer and a unbiased witness, then we can get a sense of what's going on in the world of the client, and then there is no need to read between the lines or interpret the between the lines.
Got it. So to me, it's sounding as if it's really, reading between the lines is really about calibrating what has not been said between what has been said already. So and then probably just playing it back, asking them.
It's a form of noticing, right? So you're allowing yourself to notice, and what you're noticing, simultaneously you're discerning. Sometimes you might feel that, like there are times where coaches say that clients are going off topic. How do you recognize that they're going off topic? Because you're able to discern. This is what we said in the beginning was the session outcome. It's a different thing if the session outcome itself is evolving into something different now. That's a different kind of idea. But I'm able to discern that somebody is going off topic because I'm focused on this is the session outcome. So is there value in what's happening right now, or is there not? That's not a judgment.
Got it. But then, sometimes I feel that we kind of know what the client is going to come back with, or the response that they're going to give. Is that then judgment, or is that intuition?
You could say that judgment and intuition, commonly the way these two words are used, is sort of interchangeable. And I would say that judging would mean that you are bringing a preconceived idea into how you perform. Let me sort of give a distinction between intuition and judgment. Intuition will make you aware of the pattern and keep you alert that usually if you fall in this pattern, you end up making choice number 1 and 2.
Okay.
And intuition means being aware that this pattern is happening. Let me realize for myself that the way I can perform is choice number 1 and 2, but let me not exclude any other choices, because in that moment some other choices might come. That's intuition. That means leaving ourselves present in the moment. But judgment would be, oh, I know now. This is what you've said and this is what you've done.
Like a filter.
It's exactly like a filter, right? I mean, already I have eliminated that other than 1 and 2, there won't be any other choices. So why even bother looking for choices, right? So that's again, so going back to a crime example, right? A lot of times people will say, well, why didn't you investigate other lines of, theory of how this crime was committed, right? It's like somebody getting very biased that just because I found a convenient accused over there, I'm just going to follow everything, and it then becomes like a confirmation bias. So judgment is where your confirmation bias kicks in. Intuition is where you notice that there might be a confirmation bias, so let me not succumb to it, and let me leave the usual choices open, but also be open to other choices that happen in the moment.
Got it. That's very interesting. Okay, since we are talking about the client's experience, let's pick up something else which is very commonly used, in coaching language, and I think all coaches have learned it in their coaching schools, and that is paraphrasing. So how do I reflect back, to the client and enable him to reflect as well, but not sound like a parrot?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So how would I allow that or enable that reflection to happen? And yeah.
So this goes back to that idea what we said in the beginning of the conversation, that when the client is using a choice of words to convey to you, that's their vocabulary of conveying to you, this is my experience. So then, imagine if you are telling me a recipe of something that has to be, let's say, you're good at making coffee, and I'm very curious that, Misha, teach me how to make a really nice coffee. You're saying, Nikhil, do this, then bring this filter out and do it this way, do it this way. It is already alive in your experience.
Yeah.
The manner in which you are
making coffee.
And it's alive in your experience that you're conveying that what you do to me right now.
Yeah.
For me to say that, okay, so Misha, I noticed that you told me to pick up the filter and keep it this way and heat the water to this much degrees and then take the powder. Your experience will be, that is what I have said. Yeah. So what's the value of repeating it back to me?
Yeah.
Right? But the value of paraphrasing sometimes is misunderstood, that you want to convey that whatever you are saying, speaking, expressing, sharing, I'm with you. and I'm lockstep with you, adjacent to you in the manner in which you're showing me and helping me navigate your world. But the value is not, I've just seen the last 10 steps you have taken and you walk this way, and therefore it's not a memory thing that I'm trying to remember, right? Which again goes back to presence, right? Which we explored in our previous episode, that are you present that this is a live human being conveying a real experience of what they go through.
Yeah.
Right. So if we say even something like a lot of sometimes people will give a lot of details because they feel me sharing a lot of details with you will make me satisfied that I have conveyed everything to you. But if I take the burden that, oh my God, the client has so many things, it'll be too odd if I don't recap everything, and otherwise they won't feel that I'm with them or not. But I can just say, I got it.
Yeah.
You've said a lot of things. What is it that you'd like to explore now? And just saying that much will convey to the client that, okay, they were patient, they were attentive, they were listening. And now I can feel certain that I've conveyed whatever I need to convey. Now let me respond to the next question, right? And it works because all you want to convey, if that's what you want to convey, that yes, Mr. Client, I'm with you. You could just pause.
Yeah.
And say, yeah, that's a lot of things that you're going through. But in saying it also, if I am able to make the client aware that they've actually conveyed a lot of things that they are going through, it starts making the client aware of their experience. So this is where, evoking learning, this is where discovery can happen for the client, right? So I'm not really sort of paraphrasing in a way that it's not a test. I'll get 20 out of 20 if I'm able to convey all the words back to the client. But the client will sense it. If I do it that way, the client will sense it. It's like there's no value in what I'm saying because it's just being repeated back to me.
Yeah.
And then the client might wonder, are you really listening to me?
Yeah, it's probably like it's almost like coming from the coach's world. To say that, I need to prove that I was listening and here's how I can. So in a way, by doing that, we are not really letting the client be in their experience. Rather than doing that or allowing for reflection or anything else, we're just rushing the sort of, process and get them into a state where they'll think, okay, now I've got to be even careful of what I'm telling them. Because
because what you're reinforcing with the client is every detail is important.
Yeah.
Right. So perhaps their intent was to convey so that you get the full picture.
Yeah. Correct.
So you just make sure you acknowledge that you got the full picture.
Yeah.
And paraphrasing may or may not be necessary, right? So paraphrasing could also be that they've said many things and I've just picked up a few words from that. Okay, got it. So I heard you say you're concerned and you'd like to be confident. And this is really going for a long time. But they might have said 15 sentences. But if I'm able to notice and convey back using minimal words that convey the essence of what the client's sense of the world is, and I often prefer to use the client's words.
Yeah.
Because think of this, right? Worried for them might mean it's really a big deal that they're worried.
Yeah.
For me, it might mean my cab is not getting booked. That's a worry.
Yeah.
So if I bring my interpretation of that word and I say, oh, the client has said worried, and I'll say, well, I know you're concerned.
Yeah.
They might say, no, I'm not concerned. I'm worried. Worry is really a different thing for me.
Yeah.
So I find it that it's useful to use the client's words because by them hearing it from my mouth, their meaning of that word stays intact.
Yeah.
So in their experience, it registers that this person is sensitive and present to my experience and isn't adding their own understanding or mixing it up with something else.
Yeah.
And clients appreciate that because they feel respected when that happens. That, are you getting me or not? When that's an interesting question, right? And when people say, oh, I really felt like you got me, or I really felt like, I felt heard or listened to, it's probably you spoke very less, but your presence and your appropriate crisp sort of acknowledgement of their experience is making them feel that way.
Yeah. And I guess that also helps in building that trust
Yes.
between you and the client, because even if you're not repeating verbatim what they said, they
Yeah.
know you're there with them and you're letting
Yes.
them be where they are.
Yes.
It's almost like walking together with them, yet not coming in front of,
Yes.
where they're stepping. So,
Yeah. In a sense, I mean, that's an interesting example, so if it's like the client is holding your hand, seeking assistance in walking in a particular direction. So you don't want to walk faster because it'll feel
yeah,
like you are leading them.
correct.
You want to just walk in such a way that there's enough of a tug that the client leads where it goes,
Yeah,
but there's enough that they realize you are with them.
yeah,
And if that much of a tug is there, then that means the client will recognize that you said just a few words. I said so many words, but in the few words that you said, and I was noticing you paying attention and listening, and in just a few words, it conveyed to me that you've got a sense of my world.
yeah. And in my experience, when you sort of paraphrase, you almost freezing the client, because then they're getting into the content of what they said. That,
Yes.
oh, okay, is this what I said? No, not this. Actually, this. And
Yes.
so the entire quality of that experience changes for them.
It makes them wonder that, is this going to be this way, that it's about an accurately recorded statement.
Yeah.
And you then put them in that mode, which I think disturbs the flow of discovery.
Correct.
It disrupts that flow because they've now started speaking with you.
Yeah.
And it's a non-judgmental, safe space. So they're going to be in that flow. In that flow is where they will discover something, because your questions will act like a mirror and a way of reflecting back.
Yeah.
But if I just start doing this, it's like a mirror which is reaching out and saying, make your hair this way and change your makeup this way, or put on a powder over here. Then that's disruptive to your experience.
Makes sense. Got it. And I think that brings me to my last question, which is really, at times when the clients, we are saying that we'll stick to the client's experience, right? And at the same time, there might be situations where the client's worldview is totally different from my own, right? And what if their experience is disagreeable to me? Like, how do I then manage this experience as a coach in that conversation?
So I think one thing that's important to understand is that we are like a pit stop, right? Or we are like, if we're driving on a highway from one place to the other, we are like the break that we take. Okay, let's stop here and eat the food at the mall, go to the washrooms, and then continue on our journey, right? So if we think about a coaching conversation in that way, then the idea becomes very clear that how we feel about the topic that the client brings up. And we may have strong reservations about it, or we may have very good answers for it, or we may have deep disagreements to it. But they're coming to us with a commitment of support that they're seeking from us, right? And therefore, if we have to work with them, we've got to be able to say, perfect, yeah, I understand, this is a very disagreeable topic. I absolutely have no conviction about this, but it's my world, right? And I'm free as an individual to act with those beliefs and the way I look at the world, my sensibilities in my own life. But the client is saying, in the client's life, how can the coach help make a difference? And we say this often, right, that the client has all the resources within them. So we are not really saying, well, I don't believe you, so I don't think I can give you an answer for this. We are, even if we didn't believe in it, even if we agreed with it, even if it seemed okay, neutral, there's no chance for our solutions, worldview, perspectives to creep into the client's world. They're alien to the client's world. And something which is alien to my world, most likely it will not be sustainable, won't work, won't be ecological. I may not agree with it. Maybe temporarily it will work, but then it may not work, right? So an interesting thing then is that it's okay for me to have those, by me having the conversation with the client, where what the client is saying is disagreeable, doesn't make me agreeable to their beliefs. just means that for the moment, let me park it aside. I mean, when we go and watch a movie, we don't go and agree to everything that is happening.
Correct.
So there is a temporary suspension of disbelief.
Hmm.
It's unbelievable that one person is fighting 20 people.
Correct.
But we, for the sake of entertainment at that time, we are willing to suspend it and say, yeah, it's happening. Okay, it's entertaining. It's fun.
Yeah.
As a coach, we have got to bring that temporary suspension of disbelief, which really in NLP we say not knowing state.
Yeah.
For the moment, forget everything that you know. You know, in Indian culture, we would take our footwear out when we enter someone's home. In a way, that's significant that I'm leaving everything that I bring. I'm now part of your ecosystem and your space. So let me be in this space the way it's appropriate for this space. So as a coach, can I at least leave my beliefs out of that conversation? Then I can be of service to the client in terms of what they're bringing in. And then probably I can really be a very good assistant in evoking discovery, in helping the client become aware of choices, of being aware of their own patterns. So if that's something that I strongly believe that this client is capable, they are an expert in their life. Yeah, they're not be able to figure out what's the answer for them, but by me being in a not knowing state, they'll be able to figure that out. Then this question of whether I agree with that topic, whether I agree with their approach, it does not arise. Then I temporarily suspend that and keep that out of the conversation.
Yeah. To me, it seems like the not knowing state is the foundation of any powerful coaching discussion, right? Any powerful coaching session, the not knowing state has to be there. And that can make so much available for the client as well as for you as a coach, right?
Yes. In the competencies, you know, when this word discovery is used, discovery is like that because, you know, I mean, even when we think about NLP, nobody really started by saying, let's go and discover NLP, right? Discovery is an element of surprise.
Yeah.
You know, you know, somebody went into the seas and thought they are reaching India, but they reached America. And, you know, so discovery means sometimes things may come up which will be useful, but things may come up which are not useful. And I can't prejudge this process of discovery, or I can't constrain this process of discovery by saying discovery must mean these things. Right? In transactional analysis, there is this phrase called contamination. In NLP, we have something called clean space. Right. So what are people doing in a professional kitchen? Hygiene means not bringing in external elements which will contaminate the food.
Correct.
And therefore, as a coach, by staying in a not knowing state, we are saying that what is belonging to me, I will not contaminate the conversation with the client with bringing those things from my world. I will keep the conversation sanitized enough that in the client's world, they can discover what's available to them as resources.
Beautiful. So for everybody who's listening to us and watching us, if you're interested in cultivating the not knowing state, then our courses might be the first and good way to start. What do you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of coaches come into our courses and they realize that forget coaching, you know, it's also nice to have a conversation with my kid this way, or have a conversation with my team members this way, because knowing can often interrupt today what might be different that's being said by this person. And they might feel like, you know, you were not listening. I was saying something so special. But not knowing really allows that, again, resonance and that connect to stay in that conversation. So it's crucial. Yeah, it's crucial to discovery. You know, it would be odd, right? If we were knowing, we would not enjoy watching a sunset. Oh, you know, I know, you know, now this is going to go down this way. It's 6:30, you know, what's the big deal? It's going to be orange in the sky and then the clouds. There wouldn't be fun if we were not in a not knowing state. So I think that discovery and the element of surprise, you may call it aha or eureka moment, is possible if you remain in a not knowing state as a coach and certainly as an individual.
Lovely. So let's pause here and end this conversation. And we look forward to getting the next session, the next conversation up and showing for you soon. So keep watching this space and we'll be back again.
And thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and are taking away a few insights that you can put to practice and start playing with immediately.
And also, we would urge you to spread the word and follow us on LinkedIn to know when the next episode's out. See you next time in the next episode as we continue the quest for coaching excellence. Thank you.